Singapore's legal and judicial system. Singapore's legal and judicial system is founded on the English common law tradition and the Westminster model of government. However, since gaining independence, the system has developed a distinct autochthonous character. The Constitution of the Republic of Singapore is the supreme law of the land, rendering any inconsistent law void to the extent of that inconsistency, which fundamentally distinguishes Singapore from the UK's Westminster system, where Parliament is sovereign. The Constitution establishes a separation of powers among the Legislature, Executive, and Judiciary. The Judiciary is recognized internationally for its efficiency, integrity, and impartiality, consistently achieving high rankings in global indices. It is hierarchically structured with the Supreme Court at the apex, followed by the state courts and family justice courts, which process the majority of cases. A persistent theme highlighted in academic analysis is the tension between the ideal of separation of powers and the state's prioritization of executive efficiency. This tension is particularly visible concerning judicial appointments and cases involving political opponents. A key strategic focus for the judiciary is the enhancement of access to justice through procedural reform, such as the landmark Rules of Court 2021 and technological innovation. The criminal justice process is adversarial, based on the presumption of innocence, and provides accused persons with the right to counsel, including legal aid in capital cases. Singapore maintains the death penalty for the most serious crimes, viewing it as a critical deterrent applied with stringent judicial safeguards. Supervisory jurisdiction is exercised by the High Court through judicial review, ensuring that public bodies act legally, rationally, and with procedural propriety. Singapore is a constitutional republic with a structure of government based on the Westminster system. The Constitution of the Republic of Singapore is the supreme law of the land, and any law inconsistent with it is void to the extent of the inconsistency. This fundamentally distinguishes Singapore from the UK's Westminster system, where Parliament is sovereign. Governmental power is distributed across three branches: the Legislature, the Executive, and the Judiciary. Legislative power is vested in the Legislature, which consists of the President and the Parliament. The Executive comprises the President, the Cabinet, and the Attorney General. The Singapore Judiciary comprises three main components: the Supreme Court, the State Courts, and the Family Justice Courts. Legislative power is vested in the Legislature, which consists of the President and Parliament. Parliament is a unicameral body comprising three types of members of Parliament. They are elected members, non-constituency members, and nominated members. Bills pass through three readings in Parliament. Before presidential assent, most bills are reviewed by the Presidential Council for Minority Rights to ensure they do not disadvantage any racial or religious community. The executive consists of the President, the Cabinet, and the Attorney General. The President functions largely as head of state, acting on the Cabinet's advice. Crucially, the elected president holds significant discretionary powers as the custodian of the nation's past financial reserves and the integrity of the public service, including the power to veto government budgets that draw on past reserves and key public service appointments. The cabinet, headed by the Prime Minister, the cabinet holds the general executive authority and is collectively responsible to Parliament. Since cabinet ministers must also be member of Parliament, a close practical link exists between the executive and legislative branches. This arrangement results in the executive effectively setting Parliament's legislative agenda. The Attorney General. The Attorney General is the government's principal legal advisor and, as the public prosecutor, holds the independent power to institute, conduct, or discontinue any criminal proceedings. Legal scholarship observes a fundamental tension where the Western liberal ideal of separating powers is weighed against an Asian reality. This reality suggests that governments perceive a need for centralized power to implement policies swiftly and efficiently, particularly during actual or perceived crises. The primary choice has historically been to empower the executive to pursue its programs, with institutional checks on executive power being secondary. The Constitution vests judicial power in the Supreme Court and the state courts. Supreme Courts comprise the Court of Appeal and the High Court. State courts comprise district courts, magistrates' courts, specialist courts or tribunals, and family justice courts. Court of Appeal is a final appellate court for both civil and criminal cases from the High Court. The High Court comprises the Appellate Division and the General Division. General Division has original jurisdiction for serious criminal cases and civil claims exceeding $250,000. It also hears appeals from the state courts. The Singapore International Commercial Court is a division of the General Division, specializing in transnational commercial disputes. District Courts hears criminal cases with maximum imprisonment up to 10 years and civil claims between $60,000 and $250,000. Magistrates Courts hears criminal cases with maximum imprisonment up to 5 years and civil claims up to $60,000. Specialist courts or tribunals include coroners' courts, small claims tribunals, employment claims tribunals, and the Protection from Harassment Court. Family justice courts deal with family proceedings including divorce, maintenance, family violence, adoption, and offenses by young persons. The judiciary operates under the One Judiciary framework, integrating the administrative functions of the Supreme Court, state courts, and Family Justice Court. The Judicial Service Commission governs all judicial service officers, managing their appointment, promotion, transfer, and disciplinary control. While judicial independence is constitutionally and statutorily guaranteed, Superior Court judges enjoy security of tenure, appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. However, the system faces scrutiny due to the close link between appointments and the executive. Concerns have arisen regarding the subordinate judiciary's independence, particularly following incidents like the transfer of a senior district judge to a prosecutor role shortly after acquitting a prominent opposition member. Furthermore, practices such as the appointment of judicial commissioners for fixed terms or the extension of a judge's tenure beyond the retirement age of 65 are seen as potentially creating incentives for judges to be favorable to the executive. A primary focus of the judiciary is enhancing access to justice through leveraging technology and procedural reform. The extensive use of technology, accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, includes remote and asynchronous hearings via video conference, which have become a permanent feature for many civil and criminal matters to save time and costs. Free or subsidized legal assistance is provided by schemes such as the Community Justice Center and the Law Society's Criminal Legal Aid Scheme. Additionally, the family justice courts utilize therapeutic justice, employing multidisciplinary teams to address underlying issues in family disputes holistically. The criminal justice system is adversarial, with a neutral judge acting as the arbiter of fact and law. The jury system was abolished entirely in 1970. The process begins with the first appearance, where the accused is formally charged and enters a plea. The court determines if the accused is released on bail or personal bond. If the accused claims trial, a pretrial conference is held to manage administrative matters. For specific offenses, a criminal case disclosure conference allows the prosecution and defense to exchange information, providing the accused a better understanding of the evidence. During the trial, the prosecution presents evidence and calls witnesses, subject to cross-examination by the defense. If a case to answer is found, the defense presents its case, and the accused may choose to testify or remain silent. After closing submissions, the judge delivers a verdict of acquittal or conviction. Following a conviction, the prosecution presents a statement of facts and the accused's prior criminal record, including taken into consideration charges. The defense submits a plea in mitigation. The state courts use the Guidelines on Reduction in Sentences for Guilty Pleas to clarify the potential sentencing discount for an early plea. Sentencing options are diverse, ranging from fines and imprisonment to community-based sentences. A party may appeal against a conviction, sentence, or both within 14 calendar days. However, a party who pleads guilty can only appeal against the sentence, not the conviction. The death penalty is an important component of the criminal justice system, reserved for crimes that cause grave harm to life and society. Applicable crimes include murder, large-scale drug trafficking, terrorist bombing, and using firearms to commit certain offenses. The penalty is viewed as an effective deterrent and is considered essential for ensuring the fundamental human right of Singaporeans to safety and security. Singapore maintains that there is no international consensus against the use of the death penalty when imposed according to the due process of law. The penalty is applied only after due process in accordance with Article 9(1) of the Constitution. Any person facing a capital charge is offered free legal counsel under the Legal Assistance Scheme for capital offenses, regardless of nationality. All capital cases are heard in the High Court. Furthermore, if a person sentenced to death does not appeal, the public prosecutor is obligated to petition the Court of Appeal to confirm the correctness, legality, and propriety of the conviction and sentence. The death penalty is not applied to pregnant women, persons of unsound mind at the time of the offense, or offenders who can prove they were suffering from an abnormality of mind that substantially impaired their mental responsibility for the act. Judicial review is the process by which the High Court exercises supervisory jurisdiction over public bodies. Judicial review focuses on the legality and fairness of the decision-making process, rather than the merits of the decision itself. The principal grounds for review are illegality, irrationality, and procedural impropriety. For a decision to be reviewed, it must be justiciable and amenable. The applicant must demonstrate a sufficient interest in the matter and must have exhausted all other remedies, such as statutory appeals. The Attorney General, acting as the public prosecutor, has the constitutional discretion to initiate, conduct, or discontinue criminal proceedings. Although this power is exercised independently, its application presents complex challenges, particularly in defining the ambiguous criterion of the public interest. This ambiguity is acute in politically sensitive cases. Judiciaries worldwide, including in Singapore, have generally refused to review the exercise of prosecutorial discretion with much conviction.